Meeting to order. We have the agenda for today on the screen. Are there any members who have any changes to the agenda for today? Okay, I am seeing none, so the agenda is approved. And so the next order of business are the approval of our November meeting minutes, which are on the screen. Anyone have any questions on these? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you. That was Kathleen. Is there a second?
Second, Howley.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye by roll call.
Anoka County, McPherson.
Aye.
Carver County, Robgent.
I'll abstain. I wasn't there. Thanks.
Okay. Dakota County, Lavery.
Aye.
Hennepin County, Ellos.
Aye.
Ramsey County, Isaacson.
Aye.
Scott County, Jensen.
Aye.
Washington County, Leitner.
Maggie Delheimer for Alyssa Leitner. I'll abstain.
Okay. 7W Witter. Or anybody? Tab Coordinator, Kotsukos.
Aye.
MTS, Steve Peterson.
Aye.
Community Development, Larson.
Aye.
Metro Transit, Harrington.
Abstain.
MnDOT Metro, I believe it's TAG.
Yeah.
Okay. MPCA Innocent City will not be able to be here. Mac Reef.
Aye.
Suburban Transit Fighton.
Aye.
MnDOT Freight Meyer. Deed Eddie. DNR vacant. Bicycle Sabota. Or anybody. Pedestrian Turner Bargain. Or anybody. Met Cities Bloomington Keel.
Abstain.
Chinhas Howley.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi. Let's see, Eden Prairie, Ellis said he wouldn't be able to be here. Fridley Kozlucher.
I'll abstain.
Brooklyn Park Ruiz.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Abstain.
West St. Paul Beckwith.
Aye.
Minneapolis Engineering Hager.
Aye.
Minneapolis Planning Mayell.
Aye.
St. Paul Engineering Nick Peterson.
Aye.
And St. Paul Planning Dermody.
Aye.
Hey,
That is
Joe, I
it, guys.
assume we
You
had
have it.
enough votes to approve.
Even if I don't count abstentions.
We're good? Okay,
Yep.
so the minutes are approved. Is there anyone here from the public to speak on the committee business today?
Not as has been asked of us.
Okay, seeing none, then we will move to the tab report. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. TAB met on November 15th. As part of the Chair's report, Chair Hovland reported on the Met Council Governance Task Force. Legislators have received backgrounding on the existing council structure and are now looking at alternative models around the country. Hovland requested that TAB members notify Elaine if they are interested in serving on the TAB Executive Committee in 2024. The committee members will be selected in January. Positions are 2 county, 1 Minneapolis or St. Paul, 2 city, 1 citizen, and 1 representing either modal or the remaining agencies. We are in the second half of the IIJA bill. There is $216 million in IIJA money available in discretionary funding. MnDOT will match up to $10 million per project. We have had 93 projects in the state that have some IIJA grant funding attached to them. For the MnDOT report, Sheila Kalpe reported that MnDOT is continuing to work on filling the position previously held by Michael Barnes. April Crockett is leaving MnDOT for a consulting firm. For a fatality update, there were 332 fatalities on the roadways so far. A Toward Zero Deaths conference was held in Rochester. For the MTCA, Frank Kolash reported on the inaugural board meeting of the Minnesota Climate Innovation Finance Authority, which is a green bank for Minnesota and includes opportunities to electrify and reduce emissions from the transportation sector. MPCA, as the lead agency for the governor's climate subcabinet, is working on the climate reduction planning grant. MPCA is working with MnDOT, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Agriculture on a clean transportation fuel standard. The report will be completed in February 2024. And MPCA is looking ways to jumpstart decarbonization in Minnesota. They have a grant opportunity open under the Diesel Emission Reduction Act. Grant recipients of funds for EV charging stations are required to maintain the chargers for 5 years. The plan for covering the level 3 charging station is hindered by the cost. And the VW settlement funds are limited to 15% of the funds. For the MAC report, Carl Crimmins reported that MAC and Delta Airlines are jointly renovating concourses and 75 Delta gate areas in Terminal 1. With the joint police presence with the Met Council and MAC, they are seeing a reduction in activity. They will continue to watch as the weather changes. For the Met Council report, Deb Barbeau reported that hiring of bus operators is improving. Hiring is still down for maintenance workers. Service hours have increased 10%. For Suburban Transit Association, Kevin Burkhart reported that MBTA will be having a Stuff the Bus events at grocery stores, and items will be delivered to CAP agencies. On-demand service for each of the providers continues to grow, and they are adding vehicles. For action items, TAB approved a streamlined tip amendment for project of MnDOT that went through TAC, and also the tip amendment for approving regional significant projects that also was approved by TAC. That added the lane additions on I-94 and the new interchange for US 169. There were 2 information items, one on intersection mobility and safety study, and the regional solicitation ties to the 2050 TPP, which is on TAC's agenda today. That is my report.
Thank you, Elaine. Are there any questions for Elaine? Seeing none, then we will move to committee reports, starting with the TAC Executive Committee, which did meet this morning. A couple of announcements. As most of you may have heard, if you were in last month's TAC meeting, Scott Mareck has moved on to a new opportunity and is no longer with Ramsey County. So Gina Mitico has agreed to take on the role of the TAC Planning Chair. So I want to make sure everyone's aware of that, and thank you, Gina, for taking on that role. And then a quick heads up, Met Council is looking into the online platform that they use for their meetings. We know that primarily Met Council has been using WebEx. They're going to start looking at Microsoft Teams as well. So in January, the TAC planning meeting will be held via Microsoft Teams. They're going to see how that works and then potentially expand from there or revert back to WebEx depending on how that goes. So that's a heads up for everybody on that. And then I want to turn it over to Steve Peterson to give just a brief update on where the planning work is at to launch into the regional solicitation evaluation study. Go ahead, Steve.
Sure, thanks, Chair Hager. So at TAC Executive, we did talk a little bit about this 2.5-year project called the Regional Solicitation Evaluation, whose primary goal is to better align the new 2050 TPP with our funding decisions. So we have a consultant on board for that. It's a team of SRF, HDR, and Zane Associates. So a good group to work with over the next 2.5 years, and that work will really start in earnest come Q1 of next year. So some of the opportunities for technical folks besides the committees, both tech planning, F&P, and TAC will be involved in different decision making over the course of the 2.5 years for different decision points. But we do want to form a technical steering committee, and more on that in 2024. But a technical steering committee of primarily members from our 3 subcommittees and perhaps a few outside people too. In addition, another opportunity area for you would be the special issue working groups. And so we don't know exactly what those will be. Well, 10 years ago, it was bike ped, transit, and roadways, because that's how the applications were structured. But depending on what direction our policymakers want to go from a kind of a structural standpoint, that will dictate what special working groups we might have. It might be safety, climate, and equity, or something specific to active transportation. So that would be another. So either technical steering committee would be one avenue. The special issue working groups would be another way to get involved. Just being on the committees would be maybe a third one. And then the fourth one, we do have 30 listening sessions that we will be doing the first half of 2024, where we'll go out and talk to both technical and policymakers and other stakeholders across the region to get their input on what's worked well or not so well, and their hopes for the future for the regional solicitation and this funding that comes to the region. So those are, I guess, 4 different avenues for you to be involved, and just wanted to briefly introduce that now here so you can start thinking about that coming into 2024. So back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions on those announcements before we move into the action items today? Seeing none, then we will move to the 2 action items that are coming from Executive Committee. They're streamlined tip amendments, and there's actually a lot of them kind of compiled into these 2 action items, and Joe will run through those for the group now. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, we have a total of 10 actions in these 2 amendments. And so in the old days, this would have been 10 motions, 10 votes. Maybe a little bit easier on the write-up of the actions, but certainly we don't want to have me calling names 10 times. So I'm going to go through the 4 actions on this one, and after that, I'll go through the 6 actions on the other one after the vote here. And I think what we're seeing here is maybe a little bit of pent-up demand for the STIP being approved, which was approved just under a month ago. So maybe we won't be having 10 a month after this. Let's find out. So for today, this first one that I'm showing on the screen is the addition of locally funded reconstruction and bridge to the project scope, and an increase of cost to Anoka County's CASA 2 multi-use trail project. And also we have the correction of the roadway suffix from northwest to northeast. We wouldn't normally do a tip amendment for that, but since it was here, we did that. And all the funding increase is local. This next one here is a little bit more complicated, and there is some MnDOT personnel here to answer any questions that could come up. But the on-the-ground work is identical to what is going on before and after this tip amendment. But what we're seeing here is 2 St. Louis Park projects where they're combining or they're moving some of the effort from this project on the right to the project on the left. And we're also seeing a swapping of project numbers. And the reason for that is kind of an error correction as well. This 006 is being moved to the project that sequentially comes before the 007. So those numbers are flip-flopped, but they probably should have been in the first place. And we've got some cost changes. Next, this one's a little bit simpler. We're adding a new segment of shared use path on Edgerton Street and increasing the cost of Ramsey County's CASA 14 shared use path projects. So it's local funding with local edit project. Pretty simple. And then finally, we're increasing the cost of 2 of Minneapolis's STIP 88 intersection projects. And you can see the cost increases. You can see none of the money in federal. It's all local funding. And the reason these 2 are together is because we're also associating them, which is a contractual way to kick off the projects together. With that, I would stand for questions on the process or any one of these tip amendments.
Are there any questions for Joe on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, this is Joe with Anoka County. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Joe. Is there a second?
This is Keel with Bloomington, and I would second.
Thank you, Carl. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye by roll call.
Anoka County McPherson,
Aye.
Carver County Robgen,
Aye.
Dakota County Laborie,
Aye.
Hennepin County Ellos,
Aye.
Ramsey County Isaacson,
Aye.
Scott County Jensen, Jensen,
Aye.
thank you. Washington County Delheimer,
Aye.
7W Witter or Bot, you weren't here before. Okay, Tab Kutsukos,
Aye.
MTS Steve Peterson.
Aye.
Community Development Larson,
Aye.
Metro Transit Harrington,
Aye.
MnDOT Aaron Tagg.
Aye.
Mac Reef. Okay, Bridget, I don't hear you.
Aye, sorry about that.
No problem. Suburban Transit Fighton,
Aye.
MnDOT Freight Meyer, you weren't here before.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Deed Eddie.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see, Bicycle Sabota,
Aye.
Pedestrian Turner Bargain. Okay, Bloomington Keel,
Aye.
Chanhassen Howley,
Aye.
Lakeville Omi. Fridley Kozlucher,
Aye.
Brooklyn Park Ruiz,
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson,
Aye.
West St. Paul Beckwith,
Aye.
Minneapolis Planning Engineering Hager,
Aye.
Planning Mayell,
Aye.
St. Paul Peterson, St. Paul Engineering Nick Peterson,
Aye.
and Planning Dermody.
Aye.
You guys have it.
Great. 2023-54 is approved. So we're moving on then, Joe, to 2023-55.
4 down, 6 to go. So this action is for items being added to the tip. So these are, for the most part, at least 5 of them, a little bit simpler. So this first one is preliminary engineering for Dakota. Yeah, that's right. Preliminary engineering for Dakota County's All-American Great River Road Spring Lake Park Reserve Trailhead. It's funded with National Scenic Byway funds. This next one is adding Dakota County Multi-Use Trail and Pedestrian Crossings project on CASA 48 and CASA 56, 80th Street and Concord Boulevard. It's funded with a RAISE grant. The next one, also funded with a RAISE grant, Dakota County Wayfinding, Landscaping, and Interpretive Signage along the Mississippi River in Hastings and South St. Paul. This one here is funded with CMAQ money that was already in the STIP, but it's being provided to Metro District from central office at MnDOT. MnDOT Wrong Way Driver Detection, Implementation, and Crash Prevention Plan for the metropolitan area. This one is also, it's not C, yeah, this is also CMAQ. Actually, the previous one was HTIP. I apologize. This one is CMAQ. And this is MnDOT purchasing a bus for the Shakopee Midwakanton Sioux community. And finally, this one is a little different. This is Federal Transit Administration funding for the Orange Line, and you might realize that the Orange Line is operating, but there's some funding that FTA had suggested Metro Transit remove from the project as the project is closing out, and now they're suggesting putting it back into the tip. So there's nothing in the Orange Line in the tip right now. That's why this is a new project line. This is a little unusual, particularly if you're used to the FHWA world. This probably wouldn't happen in the FHWA world, but hopefully we're content to take the funding, and we do have a couple people that maybe answer questions about it here. With that, I would stand for questions about any of these or about the process.
All right, I see a question from Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Sure, yeah, I'm interested in knowing more about this last one with the orange line. So is that there's no cost increase and it's operating already. So is this capital costs that was expected to be reimbursed, or what is this money? Could you explain a little more about that?
I can explain very little more, but I do hope there's somebody. I did invite some folks from Metro Transit that might be able to help, but yeah, I believe it's reimbursing of costs. I assume capital costs, but I don't know. Is anybody from MnDOT able to help me out here? I'm sorry, not MnDOT, Metro Transit.
Yes, this is Ruth Crow Lane. I'm a principal financial analyst. The FTA had originally asked us to de-obligate Orange Line ARPA funds, but now they changed their mind and they want us to re-obligate it to pay, cover some remaining punch list items. And so in order to re-obligate, we have to have it in the STIP in 2024. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just, additional existing punch list items, pretty nominal, but.
So for punch list items, Ruth, just a quick follow-up question, that's still construction related?
Yes, it's still capital, yes.
Okay, and so is the idea that this is a reimbursement isn't quite correct? It's that we're reintroducing these funds to cover the punch list items?
Exactly, and these were already existing funds that are just kind of hanging out there and not assigned to a grant in FTA land, but they're still within Metro Transit's wheelhouse. So it's still in our balance. So this isn't an additional cost per se, and it's not additional revenues. It's just simply allowing us to access the outstanding balance of these funds.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for the clarification. Bill, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Any further questions on this item? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, just a quick question on that. Talking about the outstanding balance of the ARPA funds. Were those funds already allocated to Metro Transit? They're just essentially being reallocated to a specific project?
Exactly, yes. So they're still within Metro Transit's balance and our allocation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands up. Last call for questions on this item. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move this item, Madam Chair, Chad Ellis with Hennepin County.
Thank you, Chad. Is there a second?
Joe with Anoka County, I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye by roll call. Go ahead, Joe.
Anoka County, McPherson.
Aye.
Carver County, Rubjan.
Aye.
Dakota County, Lebury.
Aye.
Hennepin County, Ellos.
Aye.
Ramsey County, Isaacson.
Aye.
Scott County, Jensen.
Aye.
Washington County, Dahlheimer.
Aye.
7W, I don't think they're here. Tab, Kotsukos.
Aye.
MTS, Peterson, Steve.
Aye.
Community Development, Michael Larson.
Aye.
Metro Transit, Harrington.
Aye.
MnDOT Metro, Aaron Tagg.
Aye.
Matt, Reef.
Aye.
Suburban Transit, Fighton.
Aye.
MnDOT Freight, Meyer.
Aye.
Deed, Eddie.
Aye.
Bicycle, Sabota.
Aye.
Bloomington, Keel.
Aye.
Chanhassen, Howley.
Aye.
Ridley, Kozlutzer.
Aye.
Brooklyn Park, Ruiz.
Aye.
Plymouth, Thompson.
Aye.
West St. Paul, Beckwith.
Aye.
Minneapolis Engineering, Hager.
Aye.
Minneapolis Planning, Mail.
Aye.
St. Paul Engineering, Nick Peterson.
Aye.
And St. Paul Planning, Dermody.
Aye.
Anybody I missed? Because I kind of skipped the ones who haven't been here. Either way, the ayes have it.
Okay, that item is approved, and that concludes the TAC Executive Committee report. So next up is our Planning Committee report, and Scott is not here, but I believe Bill, as the Vice Chair, has agreed to do the report for this month. Is that, Bill, are you ready?
I think Gina's going to handle this one.
Oh, okay, maybe you
yes.
guys are coordinating on the side.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, we had a little email Rochambeau and I decided to take it. So I will admit this is a bit on the fly. I was not planning chair when this item was presented. So let me know if I miss anything. But for TAC planning this month, we had one item. It was an action item. It was to review the Metropolitan Airports Commission 2024 to 2030 capital improvement program. We had a presentation by Joe. Joe, is it Whiting?
Whiting. That's right.
Whiting. Sorry about that.
No problem.
And I believe Joe will be presenting, making the same presentation here today.
Correct.
Okay, so I think, do I just then kick it over to Joe?
You do, yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Joe. Thank you, Gina.
Thanks.
All right. I will share my screen. All right. So yeah, good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Joe Whiting. I am the aviation planner for the region, and I will be quickly going over briefly on the MAC CIP item here we're today. A little history, and then we'll talk about some key items in the CIP, and then we'll move on to the action. So real quick, so the Metropolitan Airports Commission roles are defined in state statute 473-601 to 679, and their roles really to promote aviation and competitive air service. They own and operate 7 of our 9 public airports in the metro area. They also prepare long-term airport comprehensive plans. And then why we're here today, they also annually prepare their capital improvement program to implement those planned improvements. And additionally to that, they also, which is attached to this item, was annually prepare an environmental assessment of the CIP projects, known as the Assessment of Environmental Effects, the AOEE. Met Council's role in aviation planning in the region. So Minnesota statutes also identify our role and the aviation planning process in 473146 and 621. So we prepare the regional aviation system plan. We review metro, airport, and community comprehensive plans and environmental evaluations to ensure the compatibility between our airports and our communities. And finally, we review, as we're here today, MAC's capital improvement program and review and approve any major capital projects that both have a significant effect on the orderly and economic development of the region and meet a certain dollar threshold. We'll look at what that means right now. So the certain dollar threshold is the first category for projects which may need to be approved by the Metropolitan Council, and those are projects over $5 million at MSP and over $2 million at the reliever airports that also have potential for significant effects. Those significant effects are as followed: potentially a location of a new airport, a new runway at an existing airport, a runway extension at an existing airport, a runway strengthening at other than routine maintenance. That'd be making the runway stronger for potentially larger aircraft. Not something we really have to worry about, but and also potentially a new or expanded passenger handling or parking facilities, which equals 25% or more capacity increase at an airport. And also land acquisition associated with any other criteria or that would cause a relocation of a residence or business activity in the region. The 2024 capital projects review. So part of our review process is to determine if the public participation process is adequate. We do find that it was. We also review for that assessment of environmental effects, and that has been completed and reviewed. MAC CIP also identifies adequate funding for the the plan projects, and MAC CIP is consistent with the 2040 TPP. Just a few notes. There are many large projects planned for 2024 at MSP. I'll just kind of outline a few of those highlights. And there was one capital project required Met Council approval that would be going in 2024. However, the final CIP is being now considered at the Metropolitan Airports Commission, and that updated has shown that that item has been moved to 2025. We'll still look at it today, but that's just something to note that we might be looking at that again next year. Just real quick to kind of show the timeline of the CIP process and how that kind of works and where we fit in with that. So the public comment period and public hearings have been held for the CIP review. And that's under your, at those blue marks up here. Also, the public comment and hearing has been held for the environmental review with AOEE. And now you can see at the bottom here, we are moving in the Met Council review and approval process, and we are here at the Technical Advisory Committee at this point in the process. So we're almost to that full approval at the Met Council level on next month. So real quick, as I mentioned, this is a big year for 2024 for the MSP airport. Over $1 billion in new projects have been identified in the CIP for 2024. So major projects just to highlight going on at MSP next year that you might notice. There will be a terminal expansion of Terminal 2 that will include new gates to the north here. This is a nice little rendering here. It's LEED certified, and it's a pretty impressive project. It'll be a pretty large scale project. There'll also be an infill Concourse G project that'll be going on, and also a safety and security center, a new for the MSP will be built on campus. Additionally, you might have heard in the news about Delta and MAC working on some modernization improvements on Terminal 1. That is also happening as well, but these are kind of the bigger projects going on in 2024. And one project that initially was going for 2024 as well that would have required Met Council approval because it was over $2 million at a reliever airport and also triggered one of those environmental impacts would be the Lake Elmore Airport 21D runway rehabilitation and extension project. So this runway here, as you can see in the blue on the screen here, is the crosswind runway. It's planned to be extended by 254 feet to 2,750. So that little extension right there, as you can see on the map here. This was included in the 2016 long-term comprehensive plan for Lake Elmo, which was reviewed and approved by the Met Council 2016. There also was a main runway reconstruction and extension project, which was approved in 2018 by the council, and that is now constructed. I believe that finished up last year. And this will really be the final planned runway project for this airport. Again, just that small extension there. This runway project was included in the 2018 environmental assessment and worksheet, and no significant environmental impact was found by the FAA and was reviewed by the council at that time as well. This project is consistent with the TPP. Lake Elmo is classified as a minor airport in the regional system, and this small runway extension will not change that role, and it is also been incorporated in the TPP as within the Lake Elmo comprehensive plan. But again, just a note, this project has been pushed back to 2025, so we may see this again next year, and just something to note. Looking forward, so from beyond next year, 2025 to 2030, so again, 2024 will be a big year for MAC, over $1 billion in capital program planned. MSP will continue to see kind of elevated activity through 2027 with any more of over $500 million in projects identified through 2027. So if you're flying in or out of the airport, you'll see a lot of big projects going on throughout the next couple of years. 2025 will likely have another project potentially for approval next year. That would be another runway expansion at the Air Lake Airport in Lakeville. Again, and also finally, MSP and Flying Cloud, their long-term comprehensive plans are anticipated to be completed in 2024. The MSP long-term plan should be coming to this committee in the next couple of months, and we also may see some projects from these plans once they're approved by the Metropolitan Council, which could potentially be incorporated in next year's CIP for those later years in that plan as well. Again, we review these every year, so we'll find out when we get there, but potentially we could see some new projects start to show up. With that, I would open it up to any questions or comments that anyone may have on the CIP item here.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any questions for Joe or Gina on this item? Seeing none, the the recommended motion has 3 parts. Joe Barbeau, are we able to throw that up on the screen quick? I'm putting you on the spot, but I want to make sure everyone knows what the action item actually is. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so the recommended motion is before us, and if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
I'll make a motion to approve Reese Brooklyn Park.
Second, Dermody.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye by roll call.
McPherson,
Aye.
Anoka County, Carver County, Rupton,
Aye.
Dakota County, Lavery,
Aye.
Ramsey County, Isaacson.
Aye.
I'm sorry, I missed Hennepin County, Ellos.
Aye.
Scott County, Jensen.
Aye.
Washington County, Delheimer.
Aye.
7W, no. Tab, Kotsukos.
Aye.
MTS, Peterson, Steve.
Aye.
CD, Larson.
Aye.
Metro Transit, Harrington.
Aye.
MnDOT Metro, Tag. Mac, Reef.
I need to abstain, but thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah. Suburban Transit, Fighton.
Aye.
Freight, Shelley Meyer.
Aye.
Deed, Eddie.
Aye.
Bicycle, Sabota.
Aye.
Bloomington, Keel.
Aye.
Chanhassen, Howley.
Aye.
Lakeville, Omi. Fredley, Kozlucher.
Aye.
Brooklyn Park, Ruiz.
Aye.
Plymouth, Thompson.
Aye.
West St. Paul, Beckwith.
Aye.
Minneapolis Engineering, Hager.
Aye.
Planning, Mail.
Aye.
St. Paul Engineering, Nick Peterson.
Aye.
And Planning, Germany.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, that item moves forward, and that concludes our TAC planning report. Michael, I'll turn it over to you. There wasn't a meeting for F&P, but anything you want to report?
No, Madam Chair, yeah, the meeting was canceled in November, so nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you for that. And so that moves us next to our information items, and we're starting with a roadway functional class update and a presentation on that item. David, are you kicking that one off?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. I'll kick that off and introduce you to Jack Corkle from WSB. Again, my name is David Burns. I'm a planning analyst here in MTS Planning. There's a bit of background on this project, and then I'll let Jack take it away. Looks like she's got her PowerPoint up. Excellent. So we began this in 2022 and kind of had 2 distinct, task categories, I'd say. One was to revamp some of the functional class related products, such as like the change request form, etc., so that they're better aligned with kind of the state and local, state and federal guidance and documents, and also to evaluate the usefulness of the A minor arterial system and its relevance. We've had this system in place for, of course, a number of years. So based upon some of the feedback on the latter element, we did work with local agencies and decided to eliminate the other arterial, or formerly known as B minor system, and revamp it so that all A and formerly B minors are now minor arterials, while keeping the 4 sub designations. So that's kind of a good thing. We did work with, like I said, all of our local partners on making sure that they were good with our recommended B minor or other arterial to A minor sub designation categories or classifications. I think I said that in almost the most complex way possible. So with that, I will give it to Jack to talk more about the process. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, David. Madam Chair, appreciate the opportunity. Please feel free to interrupt with any questions as I go along. So as David indicated, this was a functional classification review, and it really was to make sure that we were setting up for the transportation policy plan and for the updates of the comprehensive plan to make sure things were in alignment with federal guidance. And then if there were some new framework and things that needed to move forward, they could be set in place as agencies worked on that. And so really another key component that was part of this process is that it can be very confusing to do a functional classification change if you're not as familiar with it. And so we looked at the current system and the current guidance on that as well and made some suggested changes and recommendations for improving that process to make it easier for agencies to come in and have those conversations with the group. So those were, as David indicated, in that additional work was what the primary focus was. We started out with a peer review just to see what other MPOs were doing and how consistent they were with federal guidance and what their processes were for functional classification changes. We had originally started out with 5 peer MPO areas. Baltimore declined to participate in that process, but the rest did, and they gave us some very useful information. And then also as part of that peer review, we talked about, did other folks have other sub designations or designations like an A or a B minor arterial or different principal arterial categories. So as I indicated, we looked at other peer regions. Seattle, Denver, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh were the ones that helped give us some additional information as we were moving forward and trying to figure things out. Right now, only the Met Council and St. Louis are the only MPOs that lead both the functional classification decisions as well as funding for projects and funding eligibility projects. Denver was the only other MPO along with a region that had where a designation made a difference of whether or not funding was eligible or sub-designations on that. And then Met Council was the only region that considered multimodal throughput in terms of some of their functional classification elements. Those are found in Appendix D. A lot of the challenges that we have in the region in terms of functional classification, preparing those comp plans, who's responsible for leading changes. There were some challenges in the other MPOs as well. Some of the other regions had a little bit more streamlined process because things went through the DOT and the DOT led a lot of those efforts. Discussion with the committee indicated that even though it is a little bit more complex here, that it is a good collaboration process to have both MnDOT and the Met Council at the table when making these decisions, just because of the ties to land use and growth and development within the region. And we did note that of our peer regions, we were the only one that was not consistent with functional classification guidance from Federal Highway. So the recommendations, as David had indicated, is, should we get rid of this A and B minor arterials and then those sub designations? And because right now under the current functional classification guidance in the way that it's set up and the regional solicitation, one of the criteria under the regional solicitation as part of that geographic equity and funding, one of the one connector project, which is one of the sub-designations of the A minor arterials. And so since that's currently in use, getting rid of that right now would be a little bit of a challenge, at least for this current go around. Steve and his crew and his team that are looking at that regional solicitation may come up with a better process for that, and we could eliminate the sub-designation moving forward. But given where we are right now, that sub-designation became important for us to maintain. The one area where getting rid of the other and the minor designation that could cause some challenges is in the congestion management plan, and that is just a note, or excuse me, the congestion management process, where that does refer to A minor and other arterials. But that's the only conflict with getting rid of that other and A minor arterial functional classification. So long story short, get rid of other, move forward with A, keep sub-designations for right now, and allow Steve's process to change anything moving forward. We also looked at Appendix D, which is in the transportation policy plan presently, could have a new letter or numbering system moving forward with 2050. And we went through and looked at where that current matrix that provides guidance for principal and minor arterials, as well as the collector and local routes, was inconsistent with the federal guidance. So I'm not going to go through all of these. There are some inconsistencies with the federal guidance. Big picture, the federal guidance currently has 3 categories for principal arterials. Our Appendix D isn't quite in alignment with that. It groups a couple of those. We recommended spreading them out. Another thing was the minor arterials. So again, we're getting rid of the other. We're combining them all to create the minor arterials. Other things that were in there is in terms of some of the details. Federal Highway did not provide as much. We made sure that we did provide some guidance as well. As I indicated, sometimes it can be a little challenging to come in for a functional classification change. It's something that agencies don't look at necessarily all the time anymore. The history of the system, especially with regional funding, was that cities and counties did look at that a lot more closely because of the funding and the way that the applications were set up. Under the current categories, that isn't as frequent. And so some agencies aren't as familiar with a change process or looking at their system as an overall. And so we developed a process that documents how it's done today and what the steps are, both internally and externally. And then we made recommendations in terms of the guidance online, as well as the form that is filled out by applicants to make it a little bit easier, suggesting some drop-down boxes, shortening the length of the applications, and providing examples of good applications to help the applicants fill out the forms as well. And then we developed frequently asked questions and a flyer for announcing some of the revisions to the process. So this slide just currently shows what the current process is when an applicant comes in. As you can see, for taking things to the principal arterial level, that really brings in more committee review and process, again, just to make sure that that's right for the region. And then behind the scenes, the work that's done by the Met Council, Federal Highway, and MnDOT to make sure that it gets updated in all the required documents, GIS layers for agencies as well. As again, we noted some of the changes and opportunities for the website. We've provided that to David and council staff so that those items can be updated when this process is complete. And the same thing for the form content. And like I said, we're trying to make it a little bit easier, kind of like some of the applications and smart sheets that are available as a tool nowadays. Let's see. Then the part with changing the minor arterial system and getting rid of those other arterials was that we needed to take a look and give them a sub-designation again. So for the current regional solicitation process, again, if at least a collector or one connector route is being funded, we needed to make sure those other arterials had that same designation. So we had a spreadsheets, maps, and GIS files. We went through the whole network of the other arterials, as well as the existing A minor arterials to make sure that those sub-designation were correct. And so just as a refresher, those are the augmenters, the connectors, the expanders, and the relievers. So as I indicated, we reviewed all of the existing other as well as all of the A's. We provided maps and spreadsheets. We met with all of the counties and with all of the cities that owned minor arterial routes. We had conversations with them. In general, I would say folks were in agreement with where the recommendations were. In general, cities and counties agreed on a lot of things. So if there was a CASA route, for instance, in Hennepin County that we were looking to potentially change, we talked about it with Hennepin County as well as the communities that it went through. So we were just trying to, again, get general understanding by the agencies. And then we updated our maps and spreadsheets, and we took it through our committee for review and comment. Overall, it was very well received. A lot of the folks indicated they were happy to get rid of the other arterials because that caused some confusion, and with funding, they appreciated that opportunity in the future that it's all under the minor arterial category and could be eligible for funding. They also appreciated that this process at the end of it would provide a minor arterial map and they wouldn't have to go through any functional classification changes on their own. It spurred some really good conversation. So agencies had some other routes that they maybe wanted to change and add, and it got them thinking about their functional classification. So I think that bodes well for some of the updates of the comprehensive plans this next go around. So this map just shows some of the changes that have been made based on that. And so this is the new sort of minor arterial network. You'll see, again, as expected, connector on the fringe, right? So that's your kind of outside, the less urbanized area. And you see the purple in the center, which are your augmenters, again, in that more densely developed area. And then your relievers and your expanders kind of in that growing area of the metropolitan region. Other things that we did was looked at the future principal arterial network as well. And this isn't going to be incorporated into the transportation policy plan. This is more of an exercise to understand where the counties are thinking those potential future principal arterials are based upon their transportation needs, where they think areas are going to grow and to best serve their county over the long term. So we reviewed from MnDOT's and Met Council's previous study to see if there were any other potential principal arterials on that list that needed to be reviewed. We reviewed city and county planning documents, so comprehensive plans. And we talked with most of the counties about their plans, if there's anything else that hadn't been listed, and then identified that list. And then we compared that to some of the federal highway guidance. And so again, this isn't necessarily going to be anything that is put into the regional plan. Is just kind of an understanding for council staff and for others to see what a whole picture could look like in the end. So we looked at, the interstates and other freeways and expressways and other principal arterials. For the most part, all of the ones that are being recommended or suggested by the counties were in that other principal arterial category. And so this map shows the existing breakdown. So the blue are the interstate, the pink are the other freeways and expressways, and then the red are the other principal arterials. So those are the ones that are going to have some at-grade intersections and additional access on the corridor. And so when we did our review with the counties and the other lists, there were a few of them that were, you know, a little bit more in the near term that could potentially be brought up by the counties when they update their comprehensive plans. They're generally in alignment with a lot of the federal criteria for those. And then the green shows sort of the other long-term ones that agencies saw as the region continues to grow and develop that could potentially be incorporated at some point. So direction moving forward, the 2050 TPP is going to recognize, or we're recommending having the interstate, other freeways and expressways and other principal arterial categories. We will have a single minor arterial category with the sub-designations for now, and that anything regarding for funding eligibility, right now the regional solicitation is out. Applications are due next week, and we told folks the change for this does not let them apply for funding for that now. So that was kind of the one caveat. So any questions about the work that we did or the committee?
Any questions from committee members for either David or Jack?
Sure. I'd also just like to note that we will be bringing the item of actually having all of these formerly other arterials reclassified as a minor arterial. Basically, the results of that exercise where we worked with cities and counties, we'll be bringing that to TAC probably Q1 of 2024 next year. So you'll be seeing that.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was on the PMT for this, along with some other local partners and FHWA and the DOT. And just want to say to Dave and Jack that did really a great job. Mary Carlson was on this too from Isthmus, but Jack and her team at WSB really did a lot of work given the budget that we had. So thanks to them. And one maybe follow up comment. We do often hear for the regional solicitation, why aren't we funding projects given the whole federal aid eligible system down to the major and minor collectors, respectively, based on urban and rural areas. And we've restricted it right now to the A minors and other principal arterials, as we're calling them. And the good reason that we did focus on those systems, but that will be one question that we will need to explore as part of the regional solicitation evaluation is, do you want to kind of keep it at that minor arterials and other arterials, or do you want to expand the eligibility for roadway projects that can apply for those federal funds based on the federal eligibility? So future question, and but we do get that quite a bit, so I did want to just touch on that.
No, very fair point. I think there were folks that were really anxious to, can we apply today? So there is interest.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, but thank you for this presentation. I was not directly part of the study, but this is really, really good information. It looks like there'll be a lot of improvements here. We've been through some functional classes in Minneapolis changes, and I'm looking forward to the streamlining. I think this makes a lot more sense, and I'm also looking forward to those opportunities to put applications together for some of our B minors, right? So yeah, I think this is great. So thank you for the update, and I don't see any other questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are moving on to another presentation from Steve on the regional solicitation and ties to the 2050 TPP. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Joe, are you able to share that PowerPoint?
Sure, why not?
One of the tough parts about WebEx is sharing your screen during a presentation. So that's maybe one of the limitations of WebEx.
It's sharing? I don't think it is.
Not yet, no. I'll just keep talking though. So this is a brief PowerPoint that we gave to many of the other committees and as part of the Policies and Actions TPP workshop to just remind folks about the clear linkage that we want to make between the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan and the 2026 Regional Solicitation. So that's not this one, but the next one. And in fact, that's maybe the overall overarching goal of the regional solicitation evaluation is to kind of better link these two policy and planning or planning and programming activities. So next slide here. So we did went through some of this earlier during the TAC exec report. So I'll keep going to the next slide. If you do look at the 2040, the existing TPP, there are many mentions of the regional solicitation sprinkled throughout and listed a few of the ways. The next one I think is going to have even more to say about the regional solicitation and on purpose. And so that's the next slide here, Joe, 2050 TPP. Some guidance will be in the TPP. Other things that may come into the funding could be performance measures that are incorporated in the TPP. And we may, depending on the regional solicitation evaluation, we likely, last bullet point, have to go back and do a TPP amendment so that our long-range plan is kind of full circle in describing some of the decision-making that took place as part of that regional solicitation evaluation. So next slide. One of the activities we're going to be asking this group and our policymakers is how to incorporate some of these overarching themes. So the 5 overall goals of the TPP and the Regional Development Guide. One of those is our communities are healthy and safe. So the challenge really for us is to take that, okay, our communities are healthy and safe, and what does that mean as far as a funding and programming perspective? Because it could mean lots of different things, from categories to measures to points to qualifying requirements to anything in between. So these are some of the challenges that collectively we'll have to think about over the next 2+ years on how to incorporate some of these broad guidance. And then at the same time, on the next slide, the work groups involved with the policies and actions for the TPP have recommended several more I'd say very specific level guidance for the regional solicitation, and primarily coming out of the technical working groups that some of you are involved with. And so I've just listed some of those here. Include freight reliability and freight safety in the scoring. Require multimodal elements as part of projects. Prioritize sidewalk projects with gaps. Evaluate greenhouse gas in the scoring. Prioritize green infrastructure. So there's lots of feedback that people are giving in the TPP that may end up in the regional solicitation evaluation if approved as is. So one point that we did want to make is that, especially on those policies and actions, we'd like you to make sure you're reviewing them. Are we hitting the right tone as far as how much we're kind of dictating through the TPP process versus what comes forth and is discussed in the regional solicitation evaluation. So that's maybe the key point on the policies and actions. More formal drafts of that will be out in early 2024. But many of you, if you're involved with the workshops, did see that, and we do call out kind of, this is for the regional solicitation, this action or that action. So I'm trying to be very explicit about that. So with that, Madam Chair, I do want to turn it back to you and see if people do have questions.
Thank you, Steve. Questions or comments from the group? Steve, can you go back a slide?
Joe,
I
can you
just
do it?
think as the group is, oh, sorry, it's Joe, sorry. I think as the group is thinking about this, this group's role is to advise TAB from the technical perspective, and this group is made up of subject matter experts on what it means to deliver a federal project, and TAB members generally don't have that expertise. They're leaning on us for that. And so as we're looking at this list of bullet points of what may be working its way into the 2050 TPP, I think it's important that we advise on these because there's a lot here that maybe doesn't align with how projects are actually conceived of, applied for, designed, and then delivered. And so the expectations around, scoring for projects and what's known at the time that a project is applied for is maybe out of alignment with what we know to be reality. And so I just want to make sure we're looking at this and paying attention and sharing that feedback with the working groups on the TPP, but also with your TAB members.
Good point. Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts or want to share perspectives or comments on this? Go ahead, Brian.
Just that it would be helpful as we look at this, because I look at the range of things that are on this slide and imagining that if the whole selection criteria incorporates all of these, that's a lot of different things to score, for one. But for another, I guess I'd ask the question of the team who's evaluating things. Is this the way that we really move the needle on any one of the individual things, or does having this whole range of elements that we're scoring across the board for all these different policy priorities, does that wash out what we advance in any individual one? Am I making sense with that, Steve?
You are, yeah. So, the current solicitation has many measures,
right,
each with a little bit of points. And so projects coming out of it meet a lot of different objectives, but maybe don't maximize any one particular area.
Yeah.
So maybe that's your point is, do we want to do that, continue to do that? Or do we want to hyper focus on this or that?
And I'm not saying we wash out everything, but
yep.
But let's say arguably we really wanted to have an emphasis on safety in one solicitation. Maybe there's some some way to adapt so that really does pop out with projects that really are advancing safety, or whether, greenhouse gas, whatever the emphasis area is from policy perspective. And that doesn't mean you have to do it with everything, but it's probably worth us at least looking at some adaptation so that we can think about whether we're advancing the kinds of things that are really important. All projects are good, all projects are important, but if there's a policy priority we want to really see change, we got to think harder about whether we're getting there the way that we're doing it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, at its heart, right, the regional solicitation is a means to distribute funding. It's not the end all be all in terms of meeting all of these broad goals that the region might have. It's a means of distributing funding. So go ahead, Carl.
Chair, you pretty much said my comment. Again, we sometimes overcomplicate this thing, and we are only splitting up funding is all we're doing. And sometimes when we have very detailed criteria, it doesn't necessarily actually measure the actual intent of the goal of the policy. And so I think we should also keep in mind, try to keep this simplified. I think we hired a couple solicitations this time, or applications, and we were over 10 grand for each. So it's not insignificant.
Agree. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd say you and Carl both iterated a bunch of what I was thinking as well. And, you know, some of these tools, even some of the bullet points that are listed in front of us here on this slide, are elements that many of us haven't gotten to and haven't developed yet on our projects at the point of applying for funding. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. I'm more in favor of keeping things as simple as possible, you know, still acknowledging what the goals and targets are of the TPP. But again, it's just a means of passing out funding to relevant projects. So just, I guess a second thumbs up or a third thumbs up on that. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Craig, go ahead.
Thank you. Building upon all that, I totally agree. I think we need to really focus in on what's important and not try to meet every single policy that's in the TPP. And the, you know, the greenhouse gas scoring, are we just trying to do full employment for consultants? Because I mean, this is one thing where, I mean, it sounds like Carl got off easy with just 10 grand for cost. I mean, you know, it's going to keep piling on with costs and more costs and more costs to complete something that, especially when, you know, 90% of these projects that are submitted are losers. So, I mean, where are we going with our whole regional policy and how to distribute it properly? And we have to really dig in on that and think hard on it and spend time trying to figure this out instead of just passing it along and saying, sounds good. So, thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Anyone else have thoughts or comments on this? Back in the middle of November, I had Joe send out an email to TAC on my behalf, sharing that I was coordinating with State Aid Dan Erickson on an update to TAB. And so I would just throw it back out there to you all if you want to send me additional thoughts on that. The idea is to make a presentation to TAB to help give them a better understanding of what it means for a local agency to first decide they're going to go after federal funds, but then go through the whole entire process of applying, potentially being funded, and then delivering a federal project. And I hope that you're all helping to share that information with your own individual TAB members and representatives. And I don't know the timing of when that presentation might actually happen or in what format. It could be through this regional solicitation evaluation work effort versus, you know, we want to be cognizant of the current process with the regional solicitation as well and not get any wires crossed that way. So we're still working on the timing of that. We're still working on what the actual format of that might be. But if you want to share additional thoughts with me or have any ideas that you want to share, please, you can dig that email back up or just email me directly with what you're thinking. So go ahead, Lyndon.
Yeah, that's a great point, Madam Chair. I think, not to get on my horse again, but we've really got to figure out as a region how we can swap federal money to make the system a little easier on our projects.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. 100%. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, so last cycle funded a lot of great projects, but we also federalized 95 or so projects, many of which were quite small in nature. So I'm guessing you'll hear some, I'm guessing that'll come out from the state aid presentation too about the number of projects we're federalizing, but got some good membership already for that technical steering committee, I think, here, Chair Hager. And, the solicitation is probably more than splitting up money. It's supposed to implement regional goals, and it's just a matter, it's a matter of how detailed we get in that. So I'm hearing on one side kind of the simplification of like, we need to focus on what are the most important things and maybe not try and do everything on every project. And so that's good feedback, and that I've heard a couple times here today.
Yeah, and Steve, just to build on that a little bit, the number of projects that we're all working to deliver because of all this extra funding, right? It's not just federal funding, but it's the local funding that has been realized as well. that's also a limiting factor in us being able to look at greenhouse gas effects on a project that might be 4 years out in our program in order to apply for it and give some sort of answer to that question. So I'm maybe getting on Lyndon's horse or someone else's horse on that one a little bit too, but that's kind of the challenge, I think, is, you know, what's expected at what point in time of project delivery.
Sure. Yep, and so on the greenhouse gas bullet point, I'm guessing that's going to be one we're going to definitely have to grapple with because it is one of the 5 goal areas. And you know, Tony Fisher from our staff is doing a multimodal measure study, and you know, many of the projects we're doing have no impact. You know, there's no kind of positive or negative impact on it, but the measures coming out of that study, I'm guessing, are going to be included in some way in the 2026 cycle, and we've heard that pretty loud and clear from TAB and our policymakers that they want to see kind of some movement on that. So just to be forewarned on that one in particular.
Go ahead, Carl.
So again, I think when I say that, you know, we're just picking projects, what I mean by that is not that we don't want to pick them by our goals and what's in the plan, but really the criteria has to distinguish between projects. It's got, you know, you could have all kinds of important things that you're measuring, but unless it distinguishes one project for another to help us make a decision about who to fund, it's really not worth anything in the solicitation.
Yeah, gotcha.
Bingo.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'd just like to just clarify I guess the you know, the one bullet point everybody's dialing into is the greenhouse gas. And is it evaluation evaluation in the scoring? Does that mean the scoring is dependent on some kind of greenhouse gas score, or does it mean just like evaluate how is the initial step just to evaluate, you know, how these projects impact greenhouse gases, and is that a better starting point? Maybe there's not an issue here. I think, Steve, you kind of implied that, hey, a lot of these projects aren't going to have an impact, and some are going to be positive, some are going to be negative, and you know, is that kind of the direction, or is the direction to like impose this on this, you know, as part of the scoring?
Yeah, if you go back one slide here, Joe. So you know, that's yet to be determined, I'd say. So just like our communities are healthy and safe, I would put that same, I could do a slide on we lead on climate change is another one of the goal areas that's coming out. And so how that is incorporated is something we all need to work on. Yep. But the point was we heard that last cycle from the TAB, especially when we said, well, we're working at it on the side. We've got this other study going, and that kind of maybe bought us some time to the next cycle. But heard from a lot of the policymakers that they want some consideration and some amount of the, not sure if it's every category or some of the categories that we consider that.
Go ahead, Cole.
Yep, can't hear you.
Cole, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Let's jump to Kathleen and see if Cole can come back and we can hear him.
Just a question as it relates to the discussion, you know, taking greenhouse gases as an example of, like, we've been talking about it as how you score a particular project, but I think there's ways that through looking at the regional solicitation, like take it a level up, like how funds are distributed between the different categories versus at the project level that could be more appropriate for reaching some of these goals. So just wanted to throw that into the conversation.
Yeah, you're saying modal distribution or this application category versus that, or
Yep,
I see what you're saying. Number 7 on that list down there.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I did want to just clarify that Steve was paraphrasing on his slide about
the examples, we don't have something that says use GHG measures as a scoring criteria. Our actual actions are a little bit different than that. So those are just examples, I think, and they are still evolving. And to Jim's point, how we interpret these actions is up to the regional solicitation evaluation to assess, how much of a scoring criteria do we make it? How do we do the methodology? So we are giving a little bit more broader direction than some of those examples. I did want to just note too, though, that part of the reason for doing this stronger tie between the TPP and the regional solicitation is we heard that as an ask from TAB. They said, we want to see how the region's plan can give us better direction in the regional solicitation. So trying to kind of walk that line of giving direction, but still giving the regional solicitation evaluation, a lot of flexibility to make some decisions as well.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? I think, to summarize, I think it's important that as technical subject matter experts, we stay very engaged in the conversation and share our thoughts and feedback so that it's included in the process. So there's still a lot of details to be worked out on this.
Can I ask a quick question, Madam Chair? Steve?
Yes.
Steve, you mentioned that committee or that study that Tony was leading. What is that?
Yeah, it's called multimodal greenhouse gas measures study that he's working on with a consultant, and it's to come up with measurement tools for different project types for greenhouse gases. Yep.
All right, thank you.
And just maybe to just note for the group that another companion kind of effort is the work related to the legislation from last spring around greenhouse gas emissions. And there's ongoing work to figure out what that process and ultimate tool and reporting might look like as well. So there could be some ties to that effort as well, I would think. Just on that one particular topic. Anybody else for today? Go ahead, Steve, did you have something?
No, should have used a different example, I guess, huh?
Maybe, yeah, we're all picking on greenhouse gas, but that's, just one example, so. Okay, Cole, I assume that hand is from before. Do you have anything else? Okay. I will note that there was a contribution via the chat from Bill. And seeing no other hands, are there any other business or agency announcements that any members want to share today? Okay, seeing none, then unless there's any objections, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your discussion today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great month. Happy holidays.